The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
Wednesday, 29th of April.
The FujiCast.
Hello, it's episode 99, Kev. 99.
Tomorrow is 3 digits.
Yeah, I know. There are not many podcasts that actually make the 100 club. And I'm not talking about that downloads, but I'm talking about that as in episode numbers. There are not many that reach 100 at all. Most 7 is the magic number. They say if you get past episode 7, then you stand a chance of having some sort of consistency in a run. But to get to 100 is quite a special number. Now we would have celebrated this, of course, usually. But it would have been because we wouldn't have been doing weekly if none of this stuff was going on in the world. Would have been doing every Monday still, and we wouldn't have been celebrating this until January 2021. So a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So there we go. Who knows? We might even make 200 at this rate before 2021.
Oh no! Don't say that. No.
Well, it's only another 3 months.
Oh, no, I sound like the fellow off Vicar of Dibley. No.
No. Who was the fella in that? And then he said, "Yes, you're right." Who was that? Oh, he was so funny. That guy.
They've all died, haven't they?
Yeah.
Apart from her.
Wasn't he the verger? Was he the verger?
No, that was Alice.
Oh, Ali. Oh, God, yes. No, she's passed as well.
Really young, yeah.
Oh, no, terrible. Right, well, welcome to the FujiCast, a daily show at the moment, because during lockdown, Kev said, let's go daily. And so we did, instead of every Monday. It's
it's blaming me for this. I'm sure it was your idea.
No, it has to be you. So it's a show that's kind of about Fujifilm, but kind of really just about photography in this lockdown time. And everybody whatever you shoot, whatever flavour you sport, are very, very welcome. Today being a Wednesday, we've got the third daily photo challenge of the week, the last of the daily photo challenges, because we have a new challenge for next week. And last night we actually discussed what that would be. So we'll let you know that, if we remember, before the end of the show. And as it's a Wednesday, it's another one of Kev's mountain of books you should buy when it's safe to spend money again feature. This one you promised to do the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, this is one that cropped up in conversation, didn't it? And also it's not one that's going to cost arm and a leg, as they would say in the East End of London.
So it won't cost you 1,300 quid like was it last week's or the week before?
Yeah, 1,300 quid last week, yeah.
So today, a slightly different one. You sound like you got a waterfall in the background there. Everybody be quiet for a second. Can you hear that? It's like a rushing of water. Is it really raining where you are?
No, it has been raining. It's Rosa in the kitchen. I'm just going to give her a bit of a...
No. Hang on,
no, because I think she's on the phone to her friend.
Is she? We could hear the whole conversation then, wouldn't we?
Rosa, sweetheart.
Oh dear! I tell you what, we're going to miss all this normality when we go back to just you and me in the same studio.
Gemma said to me yesterday. She said, "Well, I think she was kind of stood over me, looking at me in my desk with my my glass of ale and my computers and things. She kind of stood there and said, I think it'd be all right for you to go back to the studio, you know." And I looked back at her and I said, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, well, you're by yourself there. It's not dangerous."
No, well, she's right.
I know. And I was like, "Yeah, but you've got to walk there and back, and I'd end up going to get lunch, and and end up kind of talking to people that are around." And I said, "I get the feeling that you don't really want me and my massive computer and all my mess at the end of the living room table."
Yeah, I think that's more likely.
And she just kind of, just basically agreed.
Did she? Yeah. See you later, Kev.
But I'd be sad in the studio by myself.
Yeah.
I like being here.
Yeah. Well, I think it's. Well,
it's
one
nice
day you're going to have to get used to actually going back to work at some stage. That's going to be
I'm not going to be very good at that. I don't think that returning to normality is going to be very hard for me. And Albie, I don't think Albie could ever go back to school. Even when we mention the word school, he breaks out into a cold sweat.
Sam mentioned it the other day. She said it was last Thursday, I think. She said, "Oh, good news." She said it with a straight face. She said, "Your teachers have just said you can go back tomorrow." And he was like, "How about no?" Just sharp look of panic in his face. I think we've got another 3 or 4 weeks. I think the thought is that some children will be returning after what would be the next half term. Is that what you've heard?
I haven't heard that officially, but that's why I'm kind of working on that assumption also. Yeah. I think it'll be the little ones first, and only some of them as well. But who knows? Whatever. Yeah. It's all weird.
You've got to say now, what will be, will be. That's another T-shirt. It's almost from Kev a
meme.
Yeah.
Mimi. It's a Mimi.
Caroline Stromhilden has that's a good name. That's a good Nordic name. Yes, greetings from Norway, Caroline Stromhilden. Thank you so much for all the inspiration, the information, entertainment your podcast brings to my skiing or running workouts. Are you still skiing in Norway at the moment? Wow. I mean, this email only arrived very, very recently, so I guess there's still snow. Yeah, well, there were just about.
I photographed a wedding in Norway in July, right up in the Arctic Circle, and there was snow there then.
Well, yeah, I suppose it depends where Caroline lives, doesn't it? You're absolutely right. I'm thinking about the place that we regularly go to every year in Norway, and around about sort of late March, it starts to sort of curtail, really. I tell you what, those Nordic types, Kev, they have got thighs that could crack walnuts. Have you seen them? Well, you haven't been skiing recently, I know, but in Norway they do a lot of cross-country skiing.
Oh yeah,
and they have these the whole family alike. It doesn't matter whether you're 9 and you're a young Ben, or whether you're whether you're, I don't know, in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. They just look so hyper fit. They just ski up the hill.
It's a very, very healthy country, isn't it?
That's unbelievable. She says, I'm curious to know your opinion about the following. I'm working my way toward a more concise editing style. For black and white, I want to decide my go-to preset to either be based on one of the Fujifilm or Adobe profiles. Now, I thought this would be a good question for you because we were talking about this only yesterday. I prefer the look I instantly get from the Fujifilm profile and wonder if I will regret using a profile where I've given up access to the black and white mix sliders. What are your thoughts?
So she's shooting RAW, or she's shooting RAW, and she's choosing one of the Adobe or the Fujifilm profiles
or Adobe
in the camera profile setting of Lightroom.
Yeah.
Now, when you do that, you're basically saying to Adobe, please emulate as close as possible the set, what a JPEG would look like out of the camera. And she's right. You do lose. If you go for a black and white profile, then you're kind of going to limit yourself on the settings that you've got. However, what I do typically for my black and white stuff, if I'm using the Fujifilm cameras, which of course I'm always am, if I'm shooting RAW with them, is I use the I typically go for a color profile, believe this, if I'm going to edit for black and white. So I'll go into the camera profile area and I'll select one of the kind of more vibrant color film profiles like the Velvia or Classic Chrome, and I will then desaturate that. So I'll select a color profile, go back to the develop module, and just desaturate it all the way down, and that way I've got more control over the tones. I find that's the way I do it. However, if you're shooting RAW, you can always change your mind anyway, can't you? So it's not really a big issue, I would find. Right. I've been struggling with this stuff for the last few days because I've been trying to work on a consistent preset, and it's hard.
Will this preset be available? Will it be a Kev availability preset or one for your eyes only?
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's very hard work because I'm trying to do it properly with profiles and stuff, and it's like I need to be a brain surgeon to be able to understand it all.
You're not in the right place at the moment. Not with your ale on a desk, that's for sure. The daily hotline from Ali in brackets, female and favourite listener jingle, close brackets, has revealed this one today. Look, Ali comes along in buses, doesn't she, really? You don't get anything for ages. Then 3 in a row. Hi, Kevin Neal. It's me again. Still loving the daily podcast. I am looking forward to the 100th episode. Not long to wait. It's like Christmas time. One more sleep to 100.
One more sleep to 100. Yeah.
Well, we're going to join the Captain Tom Club.
Yeah, I think he's far more important than us.
Absolutely, yes. Kev mentioned this on this morning's show, that he thinks probably people going to weddings will have to wear masks if the country you are in requires them. I'm just wondering how that's going to work, though. I mean, how can you eat a canapé, sip champagne, or eat your wedding meal while wearing a mask? Maybe a mask with a straw-sized hole in the middle so you could drink would do the trick, but it would defeat the purpose of the mask. I think Ali's being slightly flippant here. I tell you what, though, wearing a mask, I think, Kev, will come in handy at weddings. Yeah. There's one particular guest I think it's going to come in very handy with. Do you know the one that always wants to share his photography tips? Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I can't hear you. Through the mask? No. Come back in 2021 when I can hear you properly.
Yeah. So it's a valid point, isn't it? It's
What's a valid point?
Nobody looks particularly attractive with a face mask on. They all look like Hannibal Lecter.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, although you could key them nicely to your wedding outfit, of course. There we go. I see a whole new business in this. I have another thing to ask. I think this is a serious question. Where is the stop-down button on the XT2 and XT3? The depth of field preview button? I know what that is, Ali.
Isn't that on the front? Isn't there the little button on the front? Then you have to assign it via a custom function.
Yeah, it's an assignable one, isn't it?
Yeah, go into your custom functions and assign it. Usually, there used to be a dedicated button on the front.
Yeah.
I think you assign it now. If you want to use the same one, there is a button on the front that you can just assign it to. Pretty sure about that. I've never used that button. I've never used a stop down function, so I don't know, but I'm like 99.9% sure that's the way you do it.
You used to use the stop down though with your DSLRs, did you? Or?
No.
Oh, okay, all right. David Parry. Now, I checked on this. David Parry is a professor, and this is what I found out. These are the kind of people we're now attracting, actually, Kev, to this show. I'm an associate professor of communication. He didn't write this in the email because that would be rather odd. I just found it on his website. I'm an associate professor of communication and department media at St. Joseph's University, which is in Penn. My work centres on understanding the complex cultural transformations brought about by the change from an analogue communication structure to one whose substructure is a digital network.
What?
I tell you what, that deserves this.
Very la-di-da.
It is very la-di-da. Oh, yeah. You lost me at I, actually.
Yeah.
First, this is to do with Ali's message just a moment ago. As you've probably heard from so many others lately, I really appreciate your podcast, not just for the photography bit, but the more general daily conversation. Set up to the rhythm to my week. I start my day while walking the dog. Anyway, on masks, I thought I'd drop this in because there's a stateside thing on masks, because we did mention it the other day. Heard you talking about it on the show. I thought I'd supply the American context here. Varies state by state, but in my state, Pennsylvania, if you're in public, you're supposed to be wearing a mask, and if in a store shopping, it is definitely required. But you are right, there is a mask shortage. You can't buy them, so most people make their own. They're getting some from businesses that are retooling to provide them. And they sent me an article, which is all really about the fact that the key to wearing masks is not about stopping you from getting it. It's about you spreading it to others. So it does make sense in this whole fight, doesn't it? Yeah,
I think that's what I said, didn't I?
It's
to stop it. And in fact, like in places like Japan and stuff, a lot of people have been wearing masks for a long time since the original SARS outbreak. Back in whenever it was 2005, I think. But yes, it's not. It's not to avoid catching it; it's to avoid spreading it. Typically, so I think that's kind of the benefit of it. But I mean, if you can't get them, how are they going to say? You've got to wear them. I know that some countries have actually, said that now. And in fact, today I've just looked at the Scottish government have said that they're going to recommend. But recommend is fluffy, isn't it? Recommend that everybody wears a mask. That's the way they get out of it. See, they say we recommend you wear a mask. Yeah. That's like if they say you have to, then they have to supply them. If we say we recommend it, then they're leaving the burden up to us. It's a little bit like when the government first shut down the pubs. They said, we recommend you do not go to the pubs. Yeah. And then none of the pubs or restaurants could claim on their insurance because it wasn't a government decision. So it was just a recommendation. And so they were all up in arms, weren't they, of course, saying, well, you can't just recommend because nobody's going to come and we can't get any money from anywhere.
Well, they essentially protected the insurance industry, didn't they? Because that's what all the hoo-ha is in the wedding industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, they can't. It can't be that hard to make a mask, surely. Obviously I don't know, but surely it can't be that hard to make a lot of masks. And
I think a lot more are coming in. But of course, the protection equipment that our dear NHS and all the other health professionals around the world need is perhaps not the same as just the simple, humble mask. Although that would be a good start for some people. But yeah,
the fella on Gogglebox made one out of his socks.
Did he?
Yeah, he did a good job with it.
Which one on Gogglebox? I love that show.
The man who lives in a caravan with his lady, not lady friend, but the old lady who is his friend.
No, I just think of him as feet. Because I only ever see his feet.
Yeah, I love that program. I have to say, it's really good.
Now there is a program that it can still be made, can't it? It's just in lockdown it makes no difference because they're just in watching telly.
Well, it's really interesting though. If you watch it, some of the characters have disappeared. Like I think there may be a Iranian family, and there's basically two brothers and an older man who's the father, and he's just disappeared. He's just no longer in it. Right. No mention of him or anything. Right. And probably because he doesn't live with them in real life.
Oh.
And he will be in his 70s.
Yeah.
And the two brothers are sitting in different places. And the whole thing about Gogglebox is that everybody always sits in the same place.
It's a bit Simpsons-like, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're all sat in different places. And then you've got the two sisters from Manchester they used to be on at one end of the armchairs, really close to each other, and now they're at the other end of the armchairs, really far away from each other. So there's definitely some stuff going on. But they clearly don't have a production team or anything. They've just got a camera on the top of their TV, and they get sent the stuff to watch. Yeah. And switch it all on and just record it. Yeah, it must be the cheapest program in the world to make. That's probably the most successful program in the world.
I think it does take a long, long time to edit. I think, but
I'm sure it does. Yeah, but
it is a great, great concept.
The Daily Show Photo Challenge.
Okay, Wednesday. So we have 3 more of these. And then there's a brand new challenge from next week, which we'll spill the beans on in a moment. So please be more inventive than you have been the last couple of days.
Okay, so last week, which was the 22nd of April, we had the message was write a message to us with today's date.
Oh, yes.
Show it.
Yes.
I don't think that went down very well because we only had 21 entries.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that all we had? We've been used to be 150, 200 some days.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Okay. And so it was quite easy for me to skip through them. I love the one from Elizabeth Gray, which is a picture of, I think it's a cat's foot, or either that or she's got a tiger or something in her house, poking out the bottom of her blanket, and she's typed a little message. April 22nd, 2020. It's raining. I really don't want to get out of bed, which was quite sweet. There was one from Jeremy Baker, which I think was not necessarily taken on the same day, which was basically a set of sheep in a field, and he's just overtyped their branding. Sheep get branded with numbers. Oh yeah. He's just overtyped it with 22nd of the 4th, 20.
You cheat.
There was one from Scott Rollins. And his was a glass of wine, which is very out of focus, but you can just about see the words. And on top was a Lego man in full diving suit about to dive into a glass of red wine.
Oh, I see.
And the sign on it says Happy Earth Day 2020, 22nd of the 4th, 2020. I was not aware it was Earth Day as well.
It was Earth Day. Oh.
That's usually when everybody turns their lights out, and it's a big hoo-ha, isn't it? But didn't see it a thing. No. Bill Stringer, he posted a book kind of dedication, and on his finger, which is pointing at the book, he has written 22/4/20, and the dedication said, "Everyone is a bit scared," said the horse. But we are less scared together.
Oh, I like that. Everybody's a bit scared, but they're less scared together.
Correct.
Is that the one that does it for you?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think so. That was nice. So there was a handful of those. Yeah. Good. So all good. Well done. You were very good people.
Good. Right. Daily challenge. Wednesday. Come on. Next one.
It took me ages to think of this.
No, please don't make it be what I'm thinking it's going to be.
Today, your challenge is to take a picture that emphasizes the number 3.
Don't be a cutie pie.
3. These have been quite good. Some people have been very creative. 3. So it doesn't have to be the number. It could be the number, but we want you to be a little bit more creative. It could be 3 ducks in a row. Could be something very abstract or contextual. Could be a picture of 3 of your kids, whatever, don't know, but the number 3.
You've just reminded me, actually, the ducks in a row thing. My grandma in Enfield had the three ducks, the flying ducks on the wall, which were very popular, weren't they, at one stage in British history?
Coronation Street. She had on the wall, didn't she?
But I tell you what, I recently saw three ducks on a wall at one of the local antique centres. Do you want to have a guess at how much those three original ducks were?
Oh, I don't know, £1,000?
No, not quite that much, but £300, just shy of £300. Which, when you consider you can get these things, or I always thought you could get these things at car boot sales for, I don't know, £5 at the most. That's an enormous amount of money. I mean, three ducks on a wall.
Was one of them hanging down at an odd angle because the nail had slipped?
Yeah, that's the way they were, wasn't it? Oh dear, those things in your grandma's house that would have been worth an absolute fortune now. So we've got another question. But before we do that, let's do this week's book. So it being a Wednesday, it's another chance to hear from Kev's Mountain of Books You Should Buy When It's Safe to Spend Money Again feature. And this week, here's one you can actually afford.
Yes. So we already mentioned this book briefly. It came up in question last week. I can't remember in what context. However, I mentioned a book by a photographer called Peter Zalewski. I'm definitely sure I've got that wrong. Okay. Peter Zalewski.
Well, we'll go with it.
It's a Hoxton mini press book, so readily available, and it's called People of London. And the question, I think the question was from Helen, wasn't it? About how do you just approach people in the street to take portraits?
Okay.
And
very good memory, Kev.
So this is what this book is all about. It's literally, I should give you the page count. Oh, it's one of those annoying books with no page numbers. I'm going to guess at maybe 200 pages. 2, 3, 4. And it's very, they look to be straight out of camera pictures. They're very good, technically very good. Lots of depth of field, good consideration of light and backgrounds, but all natural light. There's no fancy processing. There's no kind of, black and whites or anything like that. It's just simple pictures of simple people. I don't mean simple as in simple. I mean, they're just normal people. Yeah. And it's really nice, actually, really nice, because of that, it's really nice that they're not all, models or anything like that. They're literally people that he's approached in the street. So I'm looking at, it's not pointing, I can't tell you what page it is, but I've just turned
one,
and
two.
And the one page I'm on is two people called Lorenko and Thomas. They are buskers, but they are identical twins. So that's interesting, and each picture has a little quote from the person in the picture as well.
See, this is what I love about this book is the quotes, because he was interviewing them as well as photographing them.
So Luke is a tattoo artist, and he looks like a tattoo artist. He's ginger with lots of tattoos and funky clothes on. And his quote says, "I became a skinhead when I was 7 years old. My mum and dad are both skinheads, and so are my grandparents. I love hearing their magical stories about the first generation of skinheads. I can't ever imagine not being a skinhead."
Nor can I.
Yeah, that was his. I'll do one more. Interestingly, Rothio, who is a photographer.
Wow.
Very pretty lady. And this says, are you allowed to say that these days?
No.
Oh, okay. Really ugly lady.
No.
No, she's not. She's very pretty.
No.
I don't know who, certainly not anybody I've ever met, although she's a photographer. Yeah. And her quote says, "Leaving my hometown in Italy and moving to London and going freelance was like starting from year zero. I learned about self-confidence, perseverance, and most importantly, patience." I would imagine she's learning a lot more about patience these days. Yeah. And then there's Anne, who just says retired, and she looks a little downtrodden, a little bit sad in the eyes. And her quote says, and it's interesting, you look at their picture first and you can almost see their personality, and then you read the quote. And her quote says, "I've had my share of knocks in life. I left my abusive husband in Glasgow in the 60s with no money and just my 2 sons. We jumped on the back of a lorry bound to London. Tough as it was, we managed to survive. I'm 77 now, suffered a stroke last year, but I'm still up at 6:30 a.m. every day. I'm not wasting the precious time I have left lying in bed. Life is for living."
Do you know, I love the interview part of this book because I love people's story. I know when we initially with a Facebook group, which you're very welcome to. We haven't talked about this for a while, actually. We do have a Facebook group, the FujiCast Facebook group, and it's a really safe place for people to go because with the help of our amazing moderators, Steve and Peter, we have always been very sharp. I know we've missed the odd one, I'm sure, but to jump on any of that silliness that can sometimes occur in Facebook groups where people You know, when a question's asked, they say, "Oh, don't you know that? What's the matter with you?" Phew! None of that happens, does it? And we did have a rule. We still have a rule that when you have a pitch, you have to have some context to it, like the stories that Kev's talking about at the moment. And I think it's a really important part for me of as the pictures. I know that a picture paints 1,000 words and all that kind of stuff, but it's really nice to hear the stories, isn't it? To get some context, understand why the picture was taken, or who's in the picture, and all that kind of stuff. Don't you think?
Yeah, I get really motivated by this book. Now I'm not sure if Peter. I'm just looking for the date of publication of the book, but I can't seem to find it. It must be there somewhere. But I'm not sure if, even though this is called People of London, now of course there's People of New York, right, which is a very, very famous Facebook group, which is where this all started, and the guy would just go out, and I think originally with a very, very basic camera, totally random people and their stories. Now I don't know whether this was before that or whether this was born of that idea.
I thought this was born of it, actually.
I would have thought so. However, this is a big body of work, so I don't know when People of London and People of New York, I don't know. Well, anyway, it doesn't really matter, but they're very similar. Yeah. And the other book in the series is, of course, the Hoxton Mini Press is called On the Night Bus, which is friend of the show's Nick Turpin's book.
Nick Turpin. I keep wanting to. We must get Nick Turpin on the show. Actually, I want to talk to him.
That's a fab book as well.
Yeah. In fact, remember when we went to Brighton and Nick Turpin came there, and we nipped off for a couple of seconds, had some fish and chips, and Nick showed me his portfolio, including this book. It was one of the best fish and chip meals that I've ever had. I think just sat there looking at photos of Nick's. It was good.
Yeah. It's amazing. He's a very good photographer.
He's a very, very good photographer. Oh, hang on. Sorry.
Is that Nick?
No, hold on. Yeah. Hello. Sorry, Kevin's complaint. Hold on. Yeah. I'll have a word. Yeah, no, I agree. He can't say those words. No. Yeah. Which ones in particular did you not like? Pretty? Yeah. Oh, and simple. Okay. I'll let him know. Bye. Yeah. Yeah, the people of London feel that it's a bit unfair you describe them as simple.
Allowed to say pretty girls or simple people.
Markku, last one. Markku Honkala. Markku Honkala. This is Markku from. Here's a little test for you, Kev. Let's see. I think your knowledge will be good on this. The web. What do you call it? The bit at the end, like .com. What's it called? The
country code.
Yeah, country code. What's okay?
Technically, it's TLD.
TLD. Top level domain.
Correct.
Yes. .iki.fi. Where's that from?
Well, .fi is Finland, but I don't know what .iki.fi is. Well, there might be one of the Finlandy little islands.
Yes, it is. It's Icky Island.
Like Faroe Islands or something.
Icky Island.
Icky Island.
Icky Island. Isn't that great?
Yeah. I've never heard of it, but presumably Finland owns Icky Island then.
Yeah, they do. And Markku lives there.
Nice.
Yeah. Two things. Please note your contact form. Did you see this, by the way? Our contact form is still referencing our 1 year party, apparently. And he's quite keen to come to it.
Yes. Well, watch this space with the website.
Is it still open? He says.
My dancing fingers are working very hard right now.
Yeah. Well, we've got some very exciting news coming up, haven't we? Very exciting news. Very, 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 very. So very, I'm going to press this button.
Meme.
Question number 2, simple question. Well, it's not actually. I think this could be a long expanded chat. Is a camera just a tool? Some say it is, or should be, just a tool. As in the photographer maketh the image. A camera merely records the photographer's intent to the best of its limited technical abilities. Is it so? Is it for you? Markku. Wow, that could be a whole program in itself.
Yes, I think it is a tool. So I'm trying to find the quote. There was a quote. I'm trying to find who said it. I can't remember. I have a feeling it was. Mind
you, Markku's only just bought an X Pro 3, a companion, and not just a tool. But would the X Pro 2 have been just as good had you hung on to it.
Well, I'm sure it was Ansel Adams who said this. I'm sure it is, but I might be slightly wrong. And he said something like, and I may even have got the quote a little bit wrong. He said the most important part of the camera is the 6 inches behind it.
Yeah.
Which I agree with. Yeah, I think it's a tool. I mean, anybody who knows me or seen my cameras know that they get battered within an inch of their lives. You know, I have no kind of affiliation with them as objects of fashion. So it's a tool. Yeah, of course it's a tool. I agree with that.
I spoke to Stuart Bingham earlier today for an interview that will come out next weekend. Stuart Bingham runs a really successul, and he's a terrific commercial photographer in the northeast of England. And he, at the end of the interview, and I didn't talk to him about kit at all. I thought
you meant the snooker player.
No, there is a Stuart Bingham snooker player. You're right. No, this isn't that Stuart Bingham. And at the end of the interview, he said, "Oh, you didn't ask me the one question I thought you would ask me." And I said, "What's that, Stuart?" And he said, "Well, I brought in my camera bag, especially." He said he didn't ask me anything about the kit I use. And I hadn't. I'd sort of, because of late I've been asking that question such a lot, I thought, well, sometimes people just want to hear about the photography, not necessarily the kit. But he's I should have asked, because he is a prolific Fuji user, and he still uses his XT2. And I said, well, you've not traded up to the XT3 or the 4 for all this amazing sort of everything from incredible work he does for real estate photography right through to portraits. He's photographed the royal family and all that kind of stuff. And he said, no, XT2, that's good enough for me. And he did have that opinion. He said, it's just a tool. I don't want to spend money on stuff. He said, if I spend money, he said, I really like the look of the XT4. He said, but if I spend money on it, Andreas, close your ears at this point. But if I spend money on it, that could be a mortgage payment. Or two.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting that I feel that, and I don't mean this in any negative way, okay, but I feel that people who are full-time professional photographers, i.e. their entire income is made by clicking the button on the camera, have different opinions of their cameras than people who perhaps are hobbyists and have another income. That's not a criticism in any way, shape, or form. It's just an observation.
Yeah, I think you're more likely to keep your gear for a little bit longer, aren't you? Because you want to maximise the return out of them. Having said that, don't stop buying cameras, because otherwise it's going to... Oh, sorry. Hold on. Hello? Yeah, no, I apologise. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll tell him as well. Yeah, bye. Andreas.
You're really bored, aren't you?
I love that button thing. Do you know the other day when we asked the question, what would you walk out the room with if it was on fire? I'd have to take my jingle button machine, wouldn't I?
You know, I know I'm in for a bad day with you when I get a message from you, and it's like, so this morning's message was at 5:56 a.m.
Oh God, I was up early. Yeah, I know.
Now but bear in mind the last message that I sent to you, and we were still chatting.
It's about 12:30.
1:20 in the morning.
1:20? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Was it really that late?
Yeah, so that was only basically 4.5 hours later. You're back at your desk, and I'm thinking, oh no, he's excited about something. He's got a new jingle. He's got some idea, and I could just see you bouncing out to bed after 4 hours sleep. You know, looking all prim and proper. You don't need to worry about brushing your hair or anything. Do your teeth. Straight down to the studio. Sam's lying in bed all groggy, and you're like, oh, I can't wait. I'm going to practice ringing my phone.
Oh, do you know what we the one thing in the part? That's the end of the show for this week. Should we mention the thing that we were going to do next week as the challenge? Do you want to do it daily, or do you want to do it as a weekly thing? The caption competition.
You explain it. Yeah, I'm handing this over to you.
All right. No, well, I thought if you explained it, then you'll automatically take ownership of it. You see.
Exactly. Yeah.
Next week, we want some funny photos. So it's down to you. You need to send them in. We want to feature your photos. I did find some. I've got some, but I'd much rather feature yours, wouldn't we, Kev? We'd much rather feature theirs.
Yes.
So. Funny pictures you've taken which really do demand a caption. We want the listeners in the Facebook group to add a caption to your photos. So that's what we're going to do from Monday. I'll see if we're brave enough to do it 5 days a week. If we get a lot of photos, we certainly will. If we get a couple, we'll just do it as a weekly thing.
And those images, we'll add those images to the show notes as well, so people who are not on Facebook can have a look on the website.
Yes, very important. And if you're sending the images in, which you will be, send them in by email, please, to click@fujicast.co.uk. It's the only way we'll have them, please. click@fujicast.co.uk.
Good idea. Well done. Well done. Look forward to you dealing with that every day next week.
Can I bat it across? Boom. But you're working on the other special secret thing, and I know that's going to take, what did you say, 150 hours of your time?
Oh, maybe more. Probably years.
So,
years
it can't be years because it's got to be out soon. But yeah, so I think you've got your fair share of work. So I'm cool with that.
Good.
Right. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.